Hello everybody, and welcome to another Train Sim World 2 news video. Now, I am recording this, and it is very late, and I am very tired, but I know if I don't do this now, or at least start it, I'll certainly regret my decision in the morning. I won't be happy with myself. So I'm gonna go through with this, and I'm sure halfway through this video, it will be suddenly the morning for me, and I'll have taken a break in the recording, but you know, that's all irrelevant information to you. Let's get on with the point of the video, because of course today I'm going to be taking a look through my notes from DTG's latest live stream Q&A about Train Sim World 2. Now, there was quite a lot that they covered in this one, so there's quite a lot I've got to go through, but there's some quite interesting information, and I've got some information for you console players. I know there's been a lot of you commenting on some of my videos saying, what about this for console, what about that, and I'm not really in the console loop, and I didn't really have many answers for you, but now, hopefully this will answer some of your questions. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Before they actually got straight into the main live stream, they firstly mentioned that all the questions and answers that have been asked about Train Sim World 2 are going to be available from Monday. That'll be Monday the 17th. And you'll be able to go look over on the DTG forums, and apparently they'll all be over there. There's a chance they may not all get written up on the 17th. Some may come a bit later, but if you've got any questions that haven't been answered, or sorry, have been answered, then they may be over on the DTG store. So before you ask a question, go and have a look, see if the answer already exists for what you want to know. So, to get started, they first off talked about some of the console launch information. So, as you all probably all know by now, there's not really a lot of console sort of launch information that we know of. Obviously, the pre-order appeared on Steam recently, but nothing occurred on consoles. So, a lot of people have sort of been wondering what's going to happen with the console. And I know, like I say, I've had a few comments on my videos saying, what about the consoles? What's going to happen with them? So they released the information on it today. So the deluxe edition, first off, that's obviously the version that comes with the East Coast way. Obviously, it's more expensive to buy outright, but it should hopefully save you a bit of money in the long run if you buy the deluxe edition. If you don't have Train Sim World 2020 and the East Coast way. We've already gone through this, and we eventually managed to work out that if you already have Train Sim World 2020 East Coast way, you will not need to buy the bundle. And in fact, according to a comment I had, which I shall post on the screen now, there is actually no way you can buy the Platinum Edition or whatever they call it, because you already have the DLC that's included in it. So, if you already have it, just buy the regular version. So, upon the launch of Train Sim World 2, Train Sim World 2 will be launched on both the Xbox and the PlayStation. Upon launch, there'll be a 2-week loyalty discount. If you own the game, you will get 15% off of Train Sim World 2. That is Train Sim World 1. If you own Train Sim World 1, you'll get 15% off 2. This will not apply if you don't own 1. But, of course, don't buy one just to get the discount, because you'll waste money. And this will only last for the first 2 weeks. If you're on a PlayStation 4, they said that the only way they can apply the discount is for you to buy it through the Train Sim World 2020 store. So, if you're on a PlayStation 4, bear that in mind. You have to launch Train Sim World 2020, go into the store, and buy the game like that. You cannot buy it off the PlayStation store, because you will not receive your discount. Apparently, they're not including Train Sim World 2 as part of Game Pass on the Xbox, obviously, but they've not completely ruled out including it later. Finally, they mentioned a bit more information about sort of launch information. This isn't related to console. This is actually relating to the PC. There will be no launch sale, because obviously we've had the pre-order sale on Steam. However, there will be a 35% off routes and 20% off Loco's sale, and they will apply to the items which are included in the preserved collection so far. So, all of them items on that list that will be in the preserved collection, you'll be able to pick up for 35% off routes and 20% off Locos. Could have been the other way around, but I'm pretty sure it's that. they're the numbers anyway, and like I say, I'm pretty sure it's 35 routes, 20 locos, so that should be pretty good. So, next up we have some technical information. Somebody asked about the track render distance. Obviously, you would have noticed, and I mentioned before in some of my videos, that the sleepers load way too close to the train. Apparently, the track render distance is the exact same as before. However, they've slightly changed the way things are rendered a little bit. So that it's a smoother fade with stuff loading. It's less obvious, and I think it appears slightly further. Apparently, there's actually a way on PC to increase the load distance within the files. I don't know what it is or how you do that yet, so have a look on YouTube and see if you can find that. But yeah, apparently that way of extending is also going to be available in Train Sim World 2. In the exact same way as before. They also mentioned LODs. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what a LOD is the level of detail. Apparently, there's several models used for each asset. And as you get close to the asset, it uses a high quality model. And as you get further away, there may be 2 or 3 different steps to make it lower quality. So obviously from a distance, you're not going to see a TV aerial on top of the building, for example. So as you get sort of 200 meters away, the TV aerial does not appear on the model. It doesn't matter because you can't see it, it's too small, but it won't be there. And it just helps the game run a little bit better. So everything that's really close will have really high modelling, and then further away, the modelling will decrease. Somebody asked if there will be any performance improvements as far as frame rates are concerned with Train Sim World 2. The answer to that is more or less no. You may see the odd improvement apparently, but generally they're expecting 25 to 30 frames on a pretty decent computer or console, and apparently that's good enough. It's pretty much what we got at the moment. You know, it's fair enough, I guess. It would have been nice to have seen maybe 60 frames, but at the end of the day, our eyes apparently only sort of take in information at approximately 30 frames. So, 60 frames, you actually kind of miss half the information that your eyes are receiving anyway. Your brain just doesn't bother sort of inputting it. Now, it does look a lot smoother, because your brain's seeing more, but technically, 30 frames is what you actually see real life in. So, it almost doesn't matter that you can't get above 30 frames in that sense. Next up, somebody asked about the weighted wagon system and if it will work on coaches. Now, if you don't know what the weighted wagon system is, it's basically each wagon or coach will be assigned a weight of the load and the vehicle itself. Somebody wanted to know what happens with it, and they've already mentioned this in a Train Sim World 2 Bakerloo preview live stream. But as you stop at a platform and passengers get on and off, the weight of each coach will individually change depending on how many people get on and off. So you may stop at a station and loads of people get off. The overall weight of the train will decrease. You may then stop at a station, somebody else, and loads of people get on. The overall weight of the train will also increase. And of course, the increase and decrease of the amount of passengers will increase and decrease the ability to drive. So it'll make the heavier your train is, the harder it will be to drive. So if you've got a lot of passengers, you may find yourself needing to use more braking force than you would if you've got less passengers. Next up, the UI. This is something I mentioned to Matt in the Bakerloo live stream, and they got a reply. It was basically about imperial metric and all the kind of measurements. Basically, they were using the wrong or they weren't using the wrong percentage, but they were using a percentage for the gradient on the Bakerloo line instead of a ratio. And of course, most UK railways, at least, apparently the underground may be using a ratio as far as its gradients are concerned. But most UK railways use a ratio. And one of the questions was, can you switch between imperial and metric automatically depending on the route? The answer to that is yes. So if you're driving a German route, you'll probably have it metric, and if you're driving a UK route, you'll have it imperial. However, you can switch this option off and customize the way your things are measured. Somebody also asked if the HUD can be scaled. The answer to that is no. But the main bit in the bottom right, all of the speedo and brake pressure and all that kind of stuff, that can be scaled. Now, it's only to the point where it's either small or large. but it can be scaled. So if you're sitting a long way from your screen, you're using a console and you've got a TV, for example, you're sitting on your sofa, you can make it bigger than if you've got your screen and you don't need to take up as much space. The rest of the items can't be scaled, though. Also, there is no effect on the transparency. The transparency of the HUD cannot be changed. The HUD on the console can apparently be turned off and on again, and there's a control on the controller for this. I think this is a feature that was there before, but they mentioned it. It was there. The HUD on preserved collections will also look like the new HUD, so you'll experience the same brand new HUD as before, or as with the new stock, rather than have the old HUD. So the old HUD from Train Sim World 2020 will only be available on Train Sim World 2020, although I think they're adding an option to use the old HUD. I seem to remember them saying there's an option in the settings that means you can use the old HUD, but overall, it'll be the new HUD you'll be using. Finally, as far as distance to objectives is concerned, it's still done as the crow flies, so in a straight line from where the train is. So if you've sort of got to go around a curve and across some junctions, the distance to your stop may get further away at certain times, depending on how you're sort of going towards the thing. But so yeah, apparently they want to allow you to be able to measure track distance to see how far you've actually got to drive, but for now it's just the physical distance between you and the objective. So, next up, we have the main meat of the livery designer. Now, they started showing a video on this, so I shall run that. I shall probably run clips of this video in the background. I may not run all of it because it was an extremely long video, and it was already at like ×5 speed. So, I'll leave bits going on in the background, as you'll probably see now. So, it's available on the console. We all knew that, but somebody asked the question, and they answered it. You can get it on the PC and the console. Are there any licensed logos in the livery designer? The answer to that is no, and that's due to copyright. And I kind of understand if you've got Southern logos and London Underground logos and GWR logos and all that, you could have people misusing them seriously and causing DCG some problems with regards to licensing and all that. So, on that sense, on a commercial sense, I do understand why there are no licensed logos included. Next up, can you import your own images? The answer to that is no. And the reason for that is because they won't be a PNG file. They'll be sort of a 3D modeled file. So there's a specific type of texture. I can't remember what it's called, but you need a certain type of texture which requires a load of converting and stuff. And it's a bit of a special type of texture that would be a type of image that would be required. So for now, there is no there is no way to upload your own images. The other reason for that is also copyright. Now, this was one of the first things I thought, because there may not be logos in there, but why not just grab a picture of the First Great Western logo off the internet, stick that in the livery designer, and use it anyway, sort of thing. You don't need DCG to tell you what logos you can and can't use if that was there. So it kind of defeats the point of not having the official logos in there anyway. Somebody then asked, will the entire train be paintable, such as bogies and windows and all that? The answer, unfortunately, is no. I'm not upset about the bogies, but it might have been nice to have slightly sort of changed them about. But the windows I would have liked to have seen, actually. I would have liked to have seen the ability to put decals over the windows. Because occasionally, it really isn't often, but occasionally you do see trains running around and parts of the decal and the livery will actually cover the window. So I reckon it would have looked cool. Maybe they could have had an option where you can turn it on and off. Window yes or window no. A bit like how Bus Simulator do it for their shapes. Other places are obviously wheels and grills and all that kind of stuff. Basically, anywhere that could be painted in real life is available to put a decal on. And anywhere that couldn't is not. So, how do you drive your liveries? Well, in the scenario planner, you can put down as many liveries as you like. You can display all of your liveries if you want. You can have one train in each livery that you've designed. Or you can have, like, only one of the liveries. Or you can have none of the liveries. In the service mode, however, the livery you pick will be the livery that can be run. So, say for example, you have 3 Bakerloo 372 stock train liveries. You decide to pick just the classic 72 stock livery. You will get none of your custom reskins running that. Or none of the AI trains will be running that custom reskin that you've designed. If you pick one of your 3, you will have the random chance of your AI trains to be running in that special livery. Now, there's no if you've got, like I say, 3 liveries, it will only use 1. You can't have all 3 unless you, like I say, you make a scenario from scratch yourself. But it will load, like I say, it will load to the one you've got and the extra one. So, what can you do with the layers? Basically, each shape is going to be applied to a different layer, and you can mess them about and stuff. You can move the layers. You can sort of change the priority so that some appear on top of each other, and I believe you can group them so that you can set up a certain bit of scenery, say a bit of text, for example. If you're making your own logo, you could set up a bit of text, and then you can flip it onto the other side, and you literally just copy all of the text rather than copying it shape by shape, which would be highly annoying. So, the ultimate question is, how many liveries can you put on a train? And this is per vehicle. So, this is how many liveries you can have on a vehicle. So, say you've got an 8-car train, you can edit each coach individually, but it's however many are allowed to be put on each coach individually. So you can have up to 300 layers on each coach. Obviously, 300 layers times by the amount of coaches there are. You can have that many layers on your service. But, of course, you can't use them all on one vehicle. You have to spread them 300 layers equally across all of the cars, or the total layers across 300 on each car. You can, of course, save, edit, and then come back to the skin later. There's apparently a limit of 300 reskins in total that you can have, and that's across the board. They can be 300 reskins of one train, or they could be one reskin of 300 trains. You can have up to 300 reskins at once. And I believe this is due to storage. I believe on the consoles, they are limited to the amount of storage they're allowed to assign to a certain game. So, therefore, that's probably why they've done that. Why they've added this limit. Which is annoying, but yeah, to be honest, it's just annoying. There's not real. If you're a PC player, then yeah, again, they could try and claim it's not suffering from the console, but it does make you question it. It really does. So, what colours can you use in the livery? Now, it's a standard sort of colour palette where you get your tool and you can colour pick. So, pretty much, you can use pretty much any digital colour you can think of. There's a ridiculous amount of colours. Like 16 million different colours or something you can use. So you can literally use the colour wheel and pick the individual colour that you want and the shade and all of that kind of stuff with it off of the colour wheel. So somebody asked, are there any gradients or anything? Can you have transparent shapes, or are there gradient shapes or something? The answer to that is there are gradient shapes. So you have shapes that start solid one end and end up really sort of faded the other end. But you can't actually change the transparency of an individual shape. So you can't plonk down a square and have it pink because your square is red and your train is blue, for example. That's not going to work for you. They also said that it may be possible to do some weathering on the train with the planner. Again, they've not tried this. They've not tried this themselves. But with some of the gradient shapes, you may be possible to do something. And I'm sure if there's a way, people will work out how to put weathering on their trains at some point. Of course, we already sort of guessed it. It's a very big nuisance. You can't use TS World 2020 Preserve Collection items in the livery designer in Train Sim World 2. And that's because the texture mapping on them is not very nice, apparently. And in order to get them to work, they would basically have to redo all the texture mapping on them. So, like I say, I get why they're doing that. It's annoying. It would be nice to see it, but it would take a very long time for them to update every single texture map on every single Train Sim World 2020 vehicle that they've produced in order to get it to work right in the livery designer. Otherwise, you'd get some pretty bizarre things going on, I reckon. So, somebody said about text and numbers and stuff. There is only one font of text, but you can get lowercase, uppercase, and numbers and letters and stuff. Uppercase, lowercase letters, and numbers, which can be used in order to create your own text on the side of a train. Obviously, you can put letters together and spell out words and all that. So, yeah, that might be something that has to happen at some point. Of course, there aren't the company logos, but there are certain other logos that they've included. So, stuff like warning signage, like overhead line stickers, probably third and fourth rail stickers. There are generic stickers which you can add to the side of the trains in order to make them look more convincing. Somebody also asked, can there be a different finish on some of your shapes? So, is there a matte shape? Is there a shiny shape, for example? The answer to that simply is no. That would be nice. It would be nice to see matted bits and shiny bits and different textures on them and stuff, but no, there's no way you can do that at the moment. So, how can you manipulate the shapes? Well, obviously you can move them. You can change the size and the rotation, or the scales and stuff. Apparently, you can also angle and shear the shapes in order to get them into the shape you want, and so that they can be bent and slant around the car body. Again, there's no transparency on that, however. Somebody asked, can you change the interior colour, so cab and passenger view? The answer to that simply is no. There's no way to change that. You can only do external bits and the stuff that they haven't locked out. Also, you cannot edit existing liveries. They have to be your own liveries. Each train will start off as a light grey, solid shape, and then you add your own colours as you go along, and you add the shapes, and you can fill the colour of the train in order to get it a specific colour if you so desire. Now, with regards to sharing, they mentioned something quite interesting. Officially, as we already know, you cannot share liveries. However, you can do so in the files. Now, in order to be able to do so in the files, you apparently have to take the entire liveries folder and transfer it onto somebody else's computer. Now, taking this liveries folder will override whatever liveries this other person has, which is a very, very annoying thing. I'm sure, hopefully, there'll be somebody out there who decides that they can make it better and only share single liveries. And fingers crossed, like I say, they do. But for now, you can only share an entire folder. So make sure you keep backups of your liveries folder in case you need to install somebody else's livery for some reason. So, as far as the future of the livery designer is concerned, they're going to be adding some stuff later. They want to sort of expand the shape and the decal area, and they basically just want to wait to do that, however, and see what the community make of the livery designer overall. So, do they like it? Do they dislike it? What features could be added? Couldn't be added? They may also take some suggestions from the community about the types of shape that should be seen on the livery. So that could be quite nice. Not that I can think of many shapes that you can't make with probably what they've added already, but I'm sure there'll be something that somebody thinks of and they'll be like, yeah, that's a good idea, we'll add one of them. Finally, with regards to livery designer, there was a quick note from Matt to say that the game crashed twice when they were making the livery on the Talent 2. The advice is obviously to save frequently as it may crash. There's a lot going on, and it's a lot of information to process, I guess. It's really not good enough, to be honest, that DTG has still got crashing issues. It's basically Train Sim World 2020 all over again. This is how it all starts. This is how it never gets fixed. But fingers crossed they actually do something about it eventually, because they need to do something about it. It's not right, really, that they just have game-breaking bugs and they don't fix them. But, like I say, there's only limited memory usage on the game, although it is 64-bit, so technically there shouldn't be too low. And there's a lot going on, a lot of information that the game's got to withhold. So, save your liveries, make sure they're alright. If the game crashes, just reload it and start from where you saved it last. So, the next section was with regards to graphics. And there was the first thing they did was they showed a video of the clouds, because people were asking about the clouds. I won't show too much of this clip because it's got their faces in it. Matt's and Sam, I think his name is. They didn't sort of drop their faces at any point in this, but you can see sort of the idea of the clouds. To be honest, they actually look really nice. The only thing I can say is that they're very flat. They look 2D. They certainly need more depth to them. Somebody also mentioned that they're pretty overexposed, which I also agree with. that may be partly why they're so flat. The AP and Weather Enhancement Pack, for example, in Train Sim 2020, that's got some nice looking clouds in it, and they're pretty convincing. It's alright, but it could be better. But I do love the way that that them 3 layers are coming into effect and them clouds are moving over the top of each other. I hope they block out the sun dynamically as well, because that would be quite nice if that occurs. So again, somebody asked about the frame rate. 25 to 30 frames on average. Will consoles support 4K and 1080p? Indeed they will. Only the new ones apparently though. If you've got an older console, you will not get any 4K, you'll get the 1080p. But if you've got an Xbox One X apparently, yeah, an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro, you can use the 4K screen. Even if you haven't got a 4K screen, it will scale it down to your 1080p screen. And basically the advantage of using 4K, even if you haven't got a 4K monitor, is that you get better outputs from the game. And the anti-aliasing looks significantly better, even on 1080p, because when it's scaled down. The lighting, as you can see in the cloud video, will be as it is on the final release. All of the videos that they've done recently are apparently including the final release lighting. This has been engineered several times, and apparently now they're actually sort of in a state where they're ready to release it. So this is how it will look. Apparently there's going to be no zoom function on the external camera on the consoles, and that's simply because they've run out of buttons on the controller. Now, leading on from that, there is a possibility that they could change the functionality of the controller and the keybinds in order to make certain stuff more possible and allow other options to be usable. However, they've also got to consider the fact that there may be people playing the game with slight hand and motive disabilities, so they may struggle to be able to use a controller in certain ways. So it has to be as comfortable and as user-friendly as possible. So that's why they have to sometimes sacrifice certain options. Apparently there's going to be an option to turn off camera sway and turn it back on. There's going to be an option to turn off motion blur and turn it back on. This won't be available on the console unless you have a keyboard where you can press F2, which is silly, but I think there may be an option in the menu for it now. So hopefully, fingers crossed, if you don't like your motion blur, you can switch it off from the menu without needing a keyboard. And finally, screenshots can be taken as always, on all platforms, and then they can get uploaded to the Dovetail Live website. Now, this is not really something that interests me, to be perfectly honest. It's also slightly worrying, the fact that all your pictures get uploaded instantly to the Dovetail Live website. I'm guessing that means they're automatically Dovetail's property, and they can do what they like with them. And I don't really know if that's right. Again, it's their game. So in some ways, they've got the rights to it. But you've also bought the game, and you've paid for it. So you should be able to use your own screenshots as you feel fit, without sort of having them. I don't know if it's an automatic update, if you get a copy on your computer or not. Apparently you can do stuff with them on the Dovetail Live website. But that's how that is. So, as far as statistics are concerned, there's going to be no mastery at launch. However, Dovetail Live is going to be have a logbook which will basically record all your journey information. So it will be able to you'll be able to see all your past journeys, how far you've done, probably how far you've done on a train, on a route, what level you are. Again, data protection is kind of they're sort of harvesting your data. Now, in a way, I don't mind them doing this because there's not really a lot that you can tell about me from the Train to Drive, apart from the fact that maybe I like UK stuff or I like German stuff, and I spend a lot of time driving certain types of scenario. But to be honest, that just kind of helps me, to be honest. If they're going to make content for people depending on what's most popular, then yeah, it's probably more interesting. Probably the better way to go with it. So, controls. There is going to be no change to the keyboard or mouse, and I do not believe there is going to be a change to the console either. The controller, sorry. Apparently on the keyboard, on a console, you can only control one tone using the keyboard. You have to use the controller to do the other one. On a keyboard, there's no way to map the doors to a keybind, and Matt Bedleston made it sound like a really sort of technical reason why they couldn't do it, and then he came out with, it's because there's not been assigned. Well, yeah, clearly there's no way to assign anything to the doors, or you can't assign a key to the doors because there's no option for it yet. So just add one, and that's hunky dory. No, why have they not added that option before? To be perfectly honest, because the tab menu's horrible. Let's be honest, the tab menu's awful. It always gets in the way, and it never lets you control it how you want to. So, is there support for the rail driver and a joystick? The answer to that is not at the moment, but again, we already knew this one, but it's on the roadmap. So they'll be releasing it soon, and they'll be working on it. Apparently, they've already had rail drivers and joysticks operating trains in Train Sim World 2, and it also works with Preserve Collection content, which is good. And apparently, a lot of their testing has been with Preserve Collection content in Train Sim World 2, because obviously they've got more content on Train Sim World 2 than at the moment than they actually are going to have in the release. But they're working on it, and they're allowing you to drive it with the rail driver and the joystick. And finally, PZB can be used on a keyboard or a controller when you're using the console. So just quickly before we carry on, they also mentioned in that setting, they also mentioned in that category that they're gonna be releasing the roadmap on Tuesday, and apparently there's gonna be a lot of detail on it. There'll probably be a live stream with regards to that, so there may be another video, even if it's not quite as edited as this one. I may do a video on it if I feel like it, and that may also be the last news video for a long time. So next up, the reward system. Action points are going to be the same. Medals are going to be awarded the same, with the exception that you'll be able to see how many points you need for each category of medal. Steam achievements have been slightly overhauled, and there's going to be different ways of doing it. Apparently, base game Steam achievements are also going to be non-specific to any route, so you can drive any route and get all the achievements, and it doesn't matter if you hate a route. Say you didn't like the Sandpatch Grade and you always wanted to drive the Colnacken, for example. You could earn every achievement just through the Colnacken route. If you buy the DLC, then you'll have to use the DLC. You'll have to use the DLC in order to get these achievements that come with the DLC. But as far as the main game is concerned, no, you won't have to. Currently, there's going to be no mastery, but they're looking into it. To be honest, nobody really uses mastery. I mean, it's cool, some of the extra sort of scenery details and stuff you get, and the backgrounds. So I'll be looking forward to see it, but it's not a game breaker if mastery isn't there, to be honest. Apparently there was a bug on the PlayStation 4 that meant you couldn't get all of the achievements on Train Sim World 2020. That has apparently now been fixed, and they've changed the way that some of the achievements are being rewarded on there. There's apparently going to be no sort of leaderboard against it. Now, obviously, Train Sim World 2020, or Train Simulator 2020, sorry, actually has a leaderboard which shows global statistics of who's got how many points. So it'd be interesting to see that. But again, that's not a game-breaking thing if that's not in either. Preserve Collections achievements are going to be ported over, so you'll be able to regain them. But of course, if you already got achievement on Train Sim World 2020, it will not count towards Train Sim World 22, Train Sim World 2. Again, if you also get one on Train Sim World 2, it will not count towards the 2020 achievement. So if you want to get the achievements, you can get them twice on both, or once on both platforms, and get them twice overall. Finally, action points will be awarded in Scenario Planner scenarios, as you would expect. So, the final section of this live stream. And I've actually done all of this recording in one recording session, and I really didn't think I'd be able to because I'm very tired, like I say. But nonetheless, they talked about the Scenario Planner. Can scenarios be edited later? Of course they can. You can go back and you can edit and change and fix your scenarios later on. You can't change base game scenarios, but you can change your own ones. It's of course changing the route, replacing the train, adding more or less AI. Choice is yours. Somebody then asked, can you set up a scenario without having to drive a train? So you could do a sort of a train spotting scenario. The answer to that is unfortunately no. You can't. You have to have a train. Now you could place it down somewhere that's out of the way, but ultimately you have to have a train which has a route set up to drive in the game. going slightly out of order of the live stream, this then slightly leads up to another point about limitations of AI. And apparently there's no limitation of the amount of AI you can put in a scenario. However, once a train finishes a run and goes from A to B, it will sit at that point where it ends. So it will not despawn and use a portal. So say you've got 20 trains coming down, every single one of them 20 trains has to have an entirely different platform where it can terminate. So you can stack trains up behind each other, but you can't make them go all the way to the end of the line. Now, I'm putting that in here because that also means that these so-called endless scenarios which you can do are not actually possible unless you've got a lot of platforms. But by the time you get to a certain point, you'll have filled up all of your platforms, all of your scenario markers, and you'll have nowhere else to put the trains, which is a big nuisance in my opinion. But nonetheless, maybe that's a feature they'll add later. Again, they want to get information from the community and see how people use it, and then they want to be able to update it over time. Can you do multiple scenarios? Of course you can. You can do a part 1 and a part 2, and, you know, you drive somewhere and then you drive back, or you drive somewhere and then you go onto a different route and then you continue driving on that route and all that kind of stuff. So yes, you can have multiple scenarios sort of doing the same thing. It's the same thing as just making 2 entirely separate scenarios. Just have them sort of so that the storyline follows on from each other. Safety systems can be used in the scenarios. So if you've got your PZB or your AWS, yes, you can use them in your scenarios. There was never really any doubt that you wouldn't be able to, but some people were asking about it, so they clarified it. And that was pretty much the end of the Q&A. A couple of last points. Somebody asked if the Platinum Edition, or whatever they're calling it, of Train Sim World 2020, the East Coast Way was the preserved version. Of course it is. It's the preserved collection for use in Train Sim World 2. If you buy that, I do not know if it will work in Train Sim World 2020, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. It will work in Train Sim World 2, and that's the game you probably want to buy it for. You can obviously use the 377 in the scenarios, and you can use the, I don't know, the ICE in East Coast Way scenarios, for example, so that's pretty cool. A couple of other bits, they just reiterated the fact that there's the pre-order on Steam, 15%. Apparently, I didn't know, though, but apparently there's a 10% pre-order discount if you don't own the game, which is alright. So, yeah, if you want to do it now, then get it now, then yeah, I would say pre-order it, even if you don't own it. Of course, if you don't want it right now, then I would suggest wait maybe 6 months, because they'll probably be selling the game for a tenner anyway on Steam. So, you know, look out for that, I would say. But to be honest, it's decent value for money. They've got all the routes in there. There's a nice selection in there, so yeah, it's pretty good value for money. Again, on the consoles, to reiterate, there'll be a 15% loyalty discount if you already own Train Sim World 2020, but on the PlayStation Store, on the PlayStation, you'll have to go through the in-game 2020 store in order to buy it. It will not appear in your PlayStation Store. Finally, on Steam, there's going to be 35% off routes and 20% off locos for the first 2 weeks after launch, and them locos and routes will be those that are included as part of the Preserve collection of the first batch. Anyway, guys, that just about does it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said in my last video, I shall be live streaming probably around 8 o'clock in the afternoon, British time, or in the evening, over on my YouTube channel. I'd usually use my Twitch, but I think I'll try my YouTube channel for once. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Join me for that. Expect probably one more news video if I get around to it, and some gameplay of Train Sim World 2 when it comes out. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye!